YouTube, how's it going? Frogs Angels is back with some more NFL position rankings for the upcoming 2018 season. We're finally on to the cornerbacks. Maybe my favorite position to cover. Seems like there's a lot of arguments for this position group, not just with fans or viewers, with the players themselves. They really get into heated arguments on who's the best, and that's why I love it so much. So I gave you a top 10 here in this video, and then Danny Provolone also gives you a top 10. So we got two separate ones. And then after I give you my top 10, I'm going to go over guys that just missed the cut. Obviously, a very good position group, guys that maybe belong, that just missed the cut. So stick with me till then so I can tell you who just missed the cut. But before we get into my top 10, who did you guys vote on our Twitter, Frogs_Angels, link in the description, as the number one corner in the NFL? You guys voted for Jalen Ramsey, the corner from the Jaguars. Not super surprising, but there is a few guys that are for sure up for debate in that number one spot. We'll see where me and Danny got them. But on to the corners. Remember, it's for this upcoming season. Last year's production factors into it, but it's predicting this season, mainly right now. Who would I want to roll with right now? But number 10 on the list is Stephon Gilmore of the New England Patriots. Maybe when the Patriots signed him, wasn't in love with the signing. I knew he was pretty good. Didn't think he was top 10. Didn't think he was the guy they were going to roll with. I was kind of surprised with he was the number one guy, but you could say I was wrong on that. I think he had a hell of a season. Maybe not his numbers. Looking at his numbers, maybe don't stack up with the other guys in this list in terms of completion percentage, passer rating. But what he's asked to do is very, very hard. I mean, a lot of people are one-on-one with the best receiver on the field, but a lot of those guys are in zone a lot of the time. I mean, Stephon Gilmore will be in zone as well, but you'll see more one-on-one, man-to-man coverage from the Patriots corners like Stephon Gilmore than really anybody else. There's other teams that run a lot of one-on-one, man-to-man more than others, but the Patriots seem to run it the most. Malcolm Butler was asked to do a lot of it. Stephon Gilmore kind of took over as that number one corner, physical corner. Very hard job is what I'm saying, and he does it at a pretty high level. Very impressive in that Jaguars game in the AFC Championship. May have saved the game on a couple of pass deflections there. Very impressive. I think quarterback is obviously got to be the hardest position to play. Cornerback would be second, but specifically man-to-man coverage against the best wide receiver in football may be the single most hardest thing to do in football. That's another argument. That's another debate. But so very impressive, Stephon Gilmore. Let's see if he can continue to do it. Number 9 on the list is going to be Marshawn Lattimore of the Saints. Hell of a rookie season, and can continue to get better easily. At this time next year, we expect him higher on this list. You look at rookie seasons, Marshawn Lattimore rookie season versus maybe the guys that are ahead of him on this list. Marshawn Lattimore, more impressive. So that's why we know he should be higher on this list going forward. But right now, I think those other guys are better right now. Very close, very impressive season from Marshawn Lattimore. He'll continue to get better. Number 8, going to be Jimmy Smith from the Ravens. I don't know if Jimmy Smith's talked about enough. He got hurt last season. Before he got hurt, he was having a heck of a year. Pro Bowl year for sure. Could have been All-Pro. He was very impressive. Very, very impressive. Gets a lot of turnovers. Very physical, more physical than he once was earlier in his career. Seems to be getting better every single year. Was always good, but seems to be getting better every single year. Some, not just corners, some of these players, they'll have a good year and then an off year. Can't really tell if they're progressing. He certainly is. If he's on the field and healthy, he'll be much higher than 8. I do like Jimmy Smith a lot. I think he's underrated. Number 7 on the list is going to be Marcus Peters, a guy that maybe was once up for the debate at 1. Can he get there during this year or after the season? He certainly can. That's how tight these corners are here. Turnover machine, game-clinching interception machine. It seems to happen. He seems to make it happen at the most important time. Mainly last year, but does tend to let guys behind him a little bit, but then makes up for it with his big interceptions. Can he be better on the Rams? I think he can. Good defensive coaches over there. We'll see. What did the Chiefs not like? Was it his game? Was it his attitude? A mixture of both. For them just to trade him and not get a first-round pick, something was up there. But very good corner. A guy that I was very, very high on coming out of Washington. I think I was higher on him than most. So I'm happy that he's had plenty of success so far. Number 6 on the list of corners is Darius Slay of the Lions. These next few guys, including Darius Slay, is so tight. You can really put him anywhere, and you can make a case. Top of the NFL in interceptions, very impressive. Can be physical too, despite his size. Really all over the place. And you look at the Lions. I mean, they had a pretty balanced defense over the years. They didn't really have any big-time players besides Darius Slay, maybe Glover Quinn, and Ziggy Ansah. So he had to step up big, is my point, and he did so. So very impressive career out of Darius Slay. But I got some other guys just edging him out for this upcoming season. Number 5 is going to be A.J. Bouye, the Jaguars corner. Doesn't make it ahead of Jalen Ramsey, but very impressive. Maybe his numbers were maybe actually a little better than Jalen Ramsey, but Ramsey, for the most part, taking on the number 1 receiver week in and week out. But A.J. Bouye, very impressive on the Texans, and just to switch his teams, and it's usually not that easy to play as good or better when you switch teams, and he did that. So very impressive. Could be even better down the road here. Very impressive corner. Number 4 on the cornerback list is going to be Patrick Peterson, a guy known to be at the top pretty much his whole career in terms of corner rankings. And he could be one. It's not a stretch for him to be one. Definitely a guy that really isn't there to learn anymore. There's a lot of these guys on this list, A.J. Bouye, some other guys down the list, maybe 1 or 2 ahead of him, could get better, could learn a little more. Patrick Peterson knows the game more than any of these guys. Very impressive athlete all around, and it's not a stretch if he will be number 1 this season. So I got him at 4. I think he's got something to prove. I think he thinks he's got something to prove too, and I like that about him because some of these guys just think they got it. They're number 1. I think he sees that some of these other guys are being talked about as number 1, and I think he's going to have a hell of a year for that reason. We can see him better than 4. We will see. Number 3 is going to be Casey Hayward. I talked about Marcus Peters being one of my draft hits. Casey Hayward's one of my all-time best draft hits. So I'm a big fan of him for that reason. I thought he was actually the number 1 corner in that class. I believe D. Milner went insanely high in that class. So Casey Hayward has been super impressive, and just even since he came out into the league, and he's still doing it at a high level. Some people consider him maybe the number 1 corner in football, and it's hard to argue their case, but I have 2 guys slightly edging him out. So really, even though I said these guys were close, I think the top 2, I didn't really have to think much about the top 2. I knew they were going to be my top 2, even though these other guys are elite, like Casey Hayward, like Patrick Peterson. They are elite in this position group, but these top 2, I think, got it. I think number 2 is very close, but I think number 2 was the best of last season, but number 1 has got him, got the potential, got the age advantage on him in terms of room to grow. So number 2 is Xavier Rhodes of the Minnesota Vikings. Heck of a season. Just known as a pure lockdown corner his whole career, and now he's adding interceptions to that. So very impressive. I mean, he's played against he's played against the best wide receivers one-on-one, week in, week out, and he's shutting them down. He's getting in their heads. It's very impressive. Great athlete, can tackle too. He's really got every part of the game. That's why I guess it's kind of hard to have him at 2, but Jalen Ramsey is number 1 corner in football for this upcoming season. You could argue he's number 1 last year. I give the slight edge to Xavier Rhodes, but still being so young. He was my number 1 prospect in the draft a few years ago. And the best thing about Jalen Ramsey, if he played safety, if he didn't play corner, he played safety, he'd be a top 3 safety in football right now already. That's how you know he can just play the game. He can improve every single year. He's young. He's going to be the best corner this year. There's a lot of elite guys in terms of cornerbacks, but I'm pretty confident about Jalen Ramsey. But there is a lot of good guys, even the guys that I didn't cover. We'll see if Danny has some of the guys that I didn't cover. I'm going to rattle off a few names. I mean, more than a few here. Tre'Davious White, a heck of a rookie season right there at Marshawn Lattimore. He could have been on the list. Aqib Talib, at one point, I thought he was the best corner in football. I don't know about anymore. Didn't quite make the list. We'll see how he does with the Rams. Richard Sherman, another guy that was at one point the number 1 corner in football. Injury last year, how will he be? Will he be ready right away? If he is he 100%? That's kind of why I held him out. Malcolm Butler now on the Titans. Can't wait to see that. Chris Harris, maybe more of a slot guy, but going to need to step up more with Talib out. Josh Norman, I think he kind of fell outside the top 10 2 years ago, but is still very good. Melvin, very impressive, Rashawn Melvin. And then Xavier Howard on the Dolphins. He was another draft hit guy that I thought was a sleeper. He's more of a guy to look out for. I don't think he was considered for top 10, but he could make his way there. William Jackson is a guy that I really like of the Bengals. I would watch out for him. I think by this time next year, he's a top 10 corner. Unfortunate injury his rookie season, and then very impressive last year. Very, very impressive. A guy I really like, guy to watch out for. But let's go on to Danny Provolone's rankings, see what he's got in there. Starting off with, I think I forgot to mention Desmond Trufant. So he's got him on his list. Not really a stretch in my opinion. Very good corner, very physical corner. 2 years ago, he kind of missed a lot of the season. The Falcons were doing pretty darn good even without him. So a pretty balanced team, good coaching. Desmond Trufant didn't quite make my list, but very good corner. Still pretty young too, so he can make the list easily. Aqib Talib comes in at number 9. Didn't make my list, so we're already seeing differences here. Marshawn Lattimore comes 8, somewhat similar. Casey Hayward a little lower than I had him. Darius Slay at 6. So most of our position groups between me and Danny have been similar, but I think it's a little different. Got 2 new guys here, but let's see the next 5. Marcus Peters comes in at 5, AJ Bouye 4, Patrick Peterson 3, Xavier Rhodes 2, Jalen Ramsey 1. So he's got the same 2 as me, same top 2. Jalen Ramsey comes in number 1 corner. I think it's just the safest pick because you could argue he was the best corner last year already, and then he's young, got the potential. So it's a pretty safe pick, but pretty confident about it as well, him being all-pro level once again. We will see. Can't wait to see these corners. Seems like the position group's getting better and better. We've seen the draft classes just stacked, and I love seeing that. Between corners and running backs, I think those 2 position groups, the draft classes are really picking up, and we're seeing the position group become very, very, very strong, and I like it a lot. It's fun to watch these guys. But that'll do it for this one. We got one more position group to go, actually 2 more. We're going to do safeties, and then we're going to go offensive line units. I think that's more appealing to watch. And then we'll start going on to top 10 offense players, top 10 defensive players, then top 10 players, in our opinion, in the NFL. And then we'll start breaking down this upcoming season, predicting. Plenty of stuff to go over. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Our subscriber goal is 10K. We're trying to get there some point during this NFL season. It'd be much appreciated. Click that button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. That'll do it for this one. Goodbye.